Okay, today let's talk about the knee joint, and more specifically, what the knee joint needs to be able to do for hockey goalies. So traditionally, according to the joint-by-joint approach, the knee is a stable joint, so it provides some stability for our lower extremity, and it's sandwiched in between two mobile joints, my hip, which is a ball and socket joint, then my knee that's stable, and then my ankle, which again, according to joint-by-joint, is meant to be mobile. It's a hinge joint, so it primarily moves in the sagittal plane. That's knee extension and knee flexion. But when we're talking about goalies, the demands of the knee get a little bit different. So when we're in our stance, this is not a position that most people live in, okay, but hockey goalies do. We hang out like this all practice, all game. Then your knee demands get even greater when we start to talk about going down into a butterfly. Okay, so again, this is a gross position for the knees that we don't necessarily see in real life. And then it's even more demanding to be in this RVH position that pretty much everybody's using these days. So we need to have some rotational capacity of this knee, even though it's traditionally thought of as that linear extension flexion joint or a hinge joint. We need to be able to have some rotational capacity in the knee joint to allow for some slack in your hip and your ankle when you're in the butterfly or RVH position. So what I mean by rotation of the knee joint is how well we can control our tibia or our shin bone and how it interacts rotationally with your femur or thigh bone. So you can see here my shin bone is rotating at my knee joint. If you're looking at me like this, you're saying, what does this have to do with goaltending? But then if I come up into my butterfly position and I'm hanging out here, I can rotate my knee this way, okay? Now, if I'm wearing skates, do I want to be here with my toe dug into the ice, or do I want to have my foot ready to get into a good push? That comes from my knee, okay? So the better I can rotate at the knee, the easier I'm going to be able to get my foot in to push across the ice. When I'm looking at an RVH position, the better tibial rotation I have at the knee is going to give my ankle and my hip some slack, because this position to begin with can cause a lot of pressure in the hip or the ankle. So getting a little bit of rotational capacity at the knee can help free up some space in the ankle or the hip when we're in that RVH. And then if we look at injuries of the knee in hockey players and even goalies, we'll often see MCL, ACL in bad cases, but building up some tissue quality and capacity in that rotational aspect of our knee joint is imperative for health as a goalie.